Well, hey, everybody, it's Dave, and you're listening to another episode of the Legends of Zegan podcast. And I am here today with none other than the legend himself, Shane Light, Shane 4K. Say hi to the
Thank
people.
you. Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast, Dave. I really appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be on this.
No, the pleasure is mine. So we are actually at Casa Shane 4K here.
That's right.
And he has got himself quite a setup here. I'm impressed because, normally when we're doing podcasts on the road, you get all sorts of random backgrounds, but this is nice, Shane. I'm really impressed. You are a bookworm.
I am. I definitely am. I think I can get that. I got that from my dad. I think when I was younger, it was one of those things where my dad really got me involved in history and sports.
Yes.
So as you can see, this is a bunch of history. I have some sports stuff over there. But definitely when I have some free time, I like to, read besides, working out and all that other good stuff. Just reading is kind of relaxes my brain, and I'm always about learning. So,
well, without further ado, folks, let's get into it because we have got a lot on deck today to talk to Shane about. And so, firstly, I want to give Shane an opportunity, as I do everybody, to just give us your 1-minute pitch about how you want people to know who you are. So just give us the introduction, like the elevator. Hi, my name is Shane. The networking pitch.
I appreciate you saying that. I think for those of you that know me pretty well, or even just somewhat well, I mean, I definitely think I'm a positive person. I've been blessed with great parents and family and great friends. I've worked for the city of Scottsdale. I work for the Scottsdale School District currently. I was a full-time teacher, and I'm going back to subbing. I tutor on the side with Spanish. This podcast thing that I'm starting up is sports, kind of that entrepreneurship that we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. It's something that I really feel strongly about, and it's just something that I kind of enjoy, like starting something from the ground up, even with tutoring, making my business cards, with the podcast, kind of promoting that. So yeah, positive, hardworking, well-rounded person as well too. I think that I would like to have people know me about it. And then fitness, as most of you know, I love to post when I do my workouts, just because it's a great satisfaction to get in and work out. So.
He does almost every day. I want to say it's incredible because it reminds me how much I'm slacking on working out, but I'm also like, go Shane, man, because it's important to celebrate what you're doing. It helps keep yourself accountable.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? Because
that's
people are, if you're putting it out there, you're telling people, hey, I am of the intention of working out. So
yeah,
I like that. But
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Thank you. So I chose Shane to do this podcast because as you guys are aware, I try to interview legends, and it's said that anybody can be a legend just by their way of being, and Shane is absolutely fitting into that category.
Thank you.
I've known Shane for quite a few years. We met through just some mutual friends, I guess, at this point now. But it's been a long time, and so I've known Shane for quite a few years.
Yeah.
And you said it perfectly, right? You try to maintain a positive outlook on life, which is it's infectious, and why I think you have such a large group of friends, and I think why you're so successful in life. And
well, thank you for saying that. I definitely, I think it's one of those things where, we were talking earlier off camera before, but I kind of became more extroverted in my early to mid 20s. I was definitely more quiet growing up. I still had friends, and I still had, great relationships with family and friends, but like something happened where I actually became more outgoing in my early to mid 20s. And I know it's kind of the opposite sometimes. When you get older, sometimes you get more quieter. For me, it was the opposite. But I think I've been blessed in many cases with wonderful parents and wonderful friends, wonderful family. So I definitely appreciate that. I don't take that for granted, for sure. So.
And he's humble too, which I think is fantastic, and such a great quality that I'm attracted to, being surrounded by people that are humble. And you are a humble human, but you're so outgoing. You're such a creative person, and so again, a legend by my standards, which my standards are pretty high. Like I have a good circle of people that I revere as just top tier individuals, and you're among one of those. So let's first toast or cheers to the podcast and to everyone out there.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And yes, let's dive into a little bit more about your legendary status. And I first want to pick up on the reason I reached out to you
Mm-hmm.
is because you have started your own podcast, which
Yeah.
is amazing. And you are much farther along in your podcast than I am, which I think is amazing because you, I think, have some things and advice that you can probably hand over to me. But first, I want you to explain a little bit about what your podcast
Yeah, absolutely.
is about.
Thank you. Absolutely. The last couple years, I've noticed that I've been listening to podcasts more and more. I still listen to my music and I still listen to sports talk and this and that. But now I'll do it with the podcast. And I have Spotify. I've had it for a while now, and there's all kinds of podcasts out there. And then for me, I was just thinking about it, like, you don't have to be a celebrity or to be a well-known person to do one. So I figured, okay, let's start one. I know a good amount about sports, as most of you all know me, in particular NFL and NBA, but I do know a good amount about other sports. Let's go with it and see how it goes. And I started this in about late June, I want to say.
Yes.
And right now I'm up to 96 different listeners,
Woo!
and which is like, I'm blown away.
That's amazing.
227 listens.
Okay.
And I'm 23 episodes in, and I've had such great feedback from family and friends, and even former students of mine who have checked out my podcast, and they've made comments like, good job, Senor Luz. Luz being light in Spanish.
Yes.
So I think it's been great where, parents of students that I've taught or coached, family members, friends, ex-coworkers, and so forth have really been supportive, and I really appreciate that.
That's amazing. I love that you're doing it, and I've listened to quite a few episodes of your podcast, and I encourage everyone out there to do the same. So a quick plug: I'm actually going to put a link on the YouTube
Thank you.
page for this, but just for everybody out there who may be listening to this, not watching the video, what's the podcast called?
So it's good. It's called basically Shane 4K. Was a nickname that you certainly know from me that goes back since I was in my early 20s. I'll give a little story about that, but Shane 4K under Spotify.
Yes.
And then last week or 2 weeks ago, I actually made it available on Apple Podcast as well. So
There you
I
go.
have two formats that I'm going to try to make it where I can make it in other of formats as well.
Okay.
And everything. But Shane 4K under Spotify. And every time I do a new episode, I'll put it on the store on Instagram and Facebook with the link as well. So that way you can kind of spread the word and, maybe pick out some episodes that you want to see if you're into that particular sport. Because not everyone, will like every sport, but, you pick and choose which ones. And if you're an all big-time sports fan, then maybe you want to hear them all, perhaps.
That's amazing. And I will just a quick testimonial for your podcast. And I was telling you this a little bit earlier, but for me, I don't have all the time to stay current on sports. Like, I don't watch Sports Center, and your content is providing me with the necessary elements that I need to have in order to carry on a conversation on the golf course, in the conference room, whatever it may be, talking with my customers about, hey, what happened this week in sports.
Nice.
I can just quickly listen to Shane's podcast and know everything that I need to know. I love that you focus on, Arizona sports, but you also do NFL, NBA,
Correct.
right? Not just Arizona, but, across the entire leagues.
Yeah, thank
which
you.
It's awesome. And so, yes, a huge fan, a big plug. So go check out Shane 4K on Spotify or now Apple Podcasts.
Indeed.
And then I also wanted to quickly check in with you. Do you have a Instagram, Facebook that you want to try to use as far as social media following?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, kind of what I do, I kind of stick to stick it where I don't do the post necessarily. I think one time I did with my dad. I did one with my dad recently, which was great. My dad was kind enough to do one with me, where anytime I do an episode, I'll just kind of say episode so-and-so is out, and it's published. And then I go on my story on Instagram and Facebook, and I put the link there for Spotify. So that way it kind of just notifies everyone, oh, okay, another episode's been on there. And just to kind of keep everyone abreast of it. And the thing is I try to do one every like 2 days or 3 days. So if if I haven't done one in 4 days, I'll try to do like maybe two in 1 day perhaps as well. So.
I love that. Okay, well, I'm gonna take a little video here
Heck yeah.
for the reel, just so we can put that on Instagram.
Absolutely.
And show people what we're doing here. But yes, I'm happy to also plug your social media as well, just to get you continued follows, because as a entrepreneur, I understand the need to just network with other people, other business owners, other influencers out there. And so if you're listening or watching to this, please go check it out and spread the word, right? Because supporting small business. Obviously, celebrity podcasters don't necessarily need your help in getting more views.
The
But
Joe Rogans of the world, right?
yeah,
Exactly.
but I think Shane's got really great content. He's even just recently started talking about the Olympics, which
Right.
I want to dive into a little bit as well.
Yes, absolutely.
But first and foremost, second and foremost, because we've already jumped into the first, I wanted to ask you about the 4K. And
Yes.
I met you, and I think that name probably had already existed pre me meeting you. But
Yeah, I want to say probably like for a little bit. So yeah, it's a cool story. It's
so I want to hear it because I've always known you as Shane 4K,
Right,
and
right.
I don't even know if I know the origin story.
Yeah,
so,
no, it's fine. I don't think a lot
so-
of people do. Maybe a few do, but yeah, I'm glad to say it.
So let's hear it.
Yes,
Let's hear
I
it.
think
I
you'll
wanna-
enjoy it.
I wanna know it.
So basically, when first of all, I worked for the city of Scottsdale pretty much college all the way through. I want to say 2022. Most of it was part-time, and then I was full-time for a year as well. Met some great people for the city of Scottsdale. A lot of them become good friends of mine, and
Sure.
just met some cool people. So when I was doing a summer camp, this was back in like 2003, I want to say. So we're going way back, 21 years.
Oh, wow.
And I had started getting into karaoke a little bit at that time, kind of one of the reasons I broke out of my shell, honestly, I think. And for the summer camp, basically I was going to do like karaoke and I would go to different camps within the city of Scottsdale, summer camps, and I would be doing like an American Idol type thing where the kids would choose what song they would do and rehearse and practice during the week. And then that Friday, they would take the vote. But I'm like, you know what? I need to give myself a karaoke DJ name, just like you were DJ Dave at one point. And I'm like, Shane 4000. The reason why 4000 of all the numbers is at that time, you remember Andre 3000,
Andre 3000.
Big Boy and Andre 3000. They were
Yes.
huge. They were
Yes.
huge back then. Hey Ya was like a big song going on.
Oh yeah, Outcast for
Outcast,
days. Yep.
absolutely. Outcast was great. And I'm like, all right, Shane 4000. But then a lot of my city coworkers at the time and supervisors, assistant supervisors, they shortened it to Shane 4K instead of Shane 4000. So that basically kind of stuck. And even like my parents sometimes or other family members and friends and coworkers, 4K or Shane 4K. The last few years I really haven't used it as much, but I figured for the podcast to name it Shane 4K, just because for old time's sake. But that's how the nickname
That's
originated.
amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. So
That's
you
the story.
Inspired by Andre 3000.
Andre 3000. That's right. That's
But
right.
Shane 4K, and it's so fun to say, and I
thank you.
never understood. I was just like, oh, maybe like, because of I don't know, you got like a new TV or something, and you were the first guy to have a 4K TV.
Right.
I didn't know, but that is even a way cooler story, especially around the karaoke thing and the music thing.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about music.
Yes, you
we
are.
just talked about the DJ stuff.
Absolutely.
I do want to know though. All right, quickly. We're going out to karaoke after this. What's your first song that you're gonna sing? What's your go-to?
Good, very good question. I would say, and it's funny because my last day of school, I promised the sixth graders this year, and then the year before, also the last day of school, I promised. I sang "Sweet Caroline" for them, Neil Diamond. But when I do it in public, like in terms of a karaoke, sports bar, or whatever, I'll probably do "Cracklin' Rosie," another Neil Diamond song.
Yeah,
I can
okay.
do a decent Neil Diamond. And that's probably be one of them. The other one of my first songs I ever did was it was the song for the Breakfast Club, "Don't You Forget About Me."
Ooh,
And the beginning, it
yes.
starts off with "Hey, hey, hey, hey," and then that whole deal. In 1985, something like that. I think that's when the movie came out.
Amazing.
And so there's a few, but those would be the ones that'd probably be my go-to.
Okay,
Yeah,
so a little bit of Neil Diamond. Okay, now, and it sounds like you don't seem to have for a lot of people, getting up on stage, regardless of what you are doing, they won't do it. I don't know. I think it's like 65 or 70% of people have some fear of like public speaking
Oh, yeah,
or getting up
absolutely.
on stage.
Sure.
And you said later on in life, you kind of came out of your shell and
Big
really
time.
developed kind of an extroverted personality.
Right.
When do you remember the first time you sang karaoke?
Yeah, I think I can. It was probably, I want to say, early 20s. I'll mention a gal that my mom used to babysit her. We still keep in contact today. Amanda Ortega. I still call you
Shout
Mandy.
out to Mandy Ortega.
I remember going with her to karaoke when I was 21 or 22. And then I had some other friends, another friend, Susanna Neitz, where I would go with her and some other friends in my early 20s. where I just got comfortable singing. David Wiley, another friend of mine who would join me back then, Clint Reed, other friends from high school who I kind of got into. So for like my early 20s, we would go out to different spots and the people would know us there. Like we were really hardcore karaoke. Like,
were you going like once a week kind of thing?
Yeah, usually
Multiple
like every Friday, or probably just once, but like every Friday or Saturday. And there were places, the Vine in South Scottsdale, that closed down years ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not even around anymore.
Exactly.
But, okay.
And then another place in Tempe called, I think it was called Long Shots, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And I remember getting several friends of mine who normally wouldn't go, but they came out for a little bit to try it out. And I think it was one of those things. It was fun to do, and even if you don't have the greatest voice, you just have a fun time interacting and trying your best, basically. So
I love that, and I think that's a lesson for anybody, right? It's get out there and put yourself outside of your comfort zone,
exactly,
to experience what you're capable of. Because
totally.
For me, the first time I ever sang karaoke was. It was awful. I was so nervous,
Sure,
and I'm like,
understandable.
I'm like standing on stage, shaking, holding the microphone. I don't even think I was old enough to drink, which I don't know. I think there's almost this unwritten rule of you got to maybe have one drink or like
little
a shot.
liquid courage or something.
Exactly.
Sure.
But it helped me get out of my shell, and then it was such a terrible experience. It took another 20 years for me to try it again.
Sure.
And I recently did it a couple of years ago in front of my wife.
Nice.
Actually, we
Right
went
on.
out and randomly went to this birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
They had karaoke.
Nice.
And I was like, you know what? I had a couple of drinks, and
Sure.
I was like, okay, I'm going to do this.
Good,
and
good.
I sang No Diggity by Blackstreet.
Yes, I remember that song. 90s.
And
We're 90s kids. So
Such
yeah.
a great
It is
song.
that is a great song.
I don't know what possessed me to think that I could do it, but my wife took video of it, and I watched it afterwards. I was like, you know what? I actually kind of crushed that.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I think that's what it is too. I'm sure your wife was encouraging and other people with
Yes.
you, and you like a song so much, you want to give it a shot.
Yes.
And I'm glad that your second time you did it was a better experience than your first.
Yeah,
so.
and now I'm a believer. Like I want to do karaoke as often as I can.
Very cool.
And I want to ask you now. I have one person that I've ever met that can't stand karaoke, and I feel like everybody else is tolerable of it, but
Sure.
this one person, I'm not gonna call him out because
Okay.
I don't want to embarrass him, but have you met people that are just like, I hate karaoke and I will never go to a karaoke bar, or I'm anti karaoke?
Yeah, good question. Another good question. The more I think about it, I don't think so. I think there's some people, some of my friends, that there's probably quite a few that would like to do it themselves or have done it. But I think a lot of them are like, it's maybe they're not into it so much, but not that they can't stand it. Like maybe they'll go once in a while, maybe they won't sing, but they don't mind being there, but they're not like anti-karaoke. I think all of my friends and family are karaoke friendly, I guess you could say, in terms of that. Yeah.
Pro karaoke.
Pro karaoke. Yeah, exactly.
Karaoke allies.
There you go. Exactly.
Well, any advice on what I can say to him to maybe, because I've tried just being like, hey man, it's fun, everybody's having a great time,
Right.
Don't you want to be like, why are you trying to be bah humbug about it? But I don't know, I can't seem to break through that
Veneer.
barrier.
Sure.
And so I just asking, maybe
Yeah.
you don't have any advice on how I can get through to him. But
I think it's one of those things where the way I look at it is, I mean, everyone for the most part I think likes some kind of music. And maybe with your friend, you can kind of just say, just to enjoy. It's not like it's a contest where you're listening and you're judging. It's in the background and that kind of thing. But maybe your friend doesn't. Maybe he only likes to hear like really good singers, and he's just so used to that anything that isn't excellent singing, maybe that's not his cup of tea, I guess, maybe.
Sure.
Yeah, that could be. I don't know.
Yeah, you might be right, because he does complain that he's like, I don't want to go to a bar and hear a bunch of people wailing and subpar singing. But I'm like, but they're having a way better time than you are.
Well, yeah, that's true.
So
Exactly.
I don't know, but
yeah.
I don't want to spend too much time on that, because
No, that's fine. That's
fine. I'm just still trying to figure out a way to crack through that, because his wife loves karaoke. We all love karaoke, his family, but for whatever reason.
So he's like the only one. Oh,
yeah,
okay,
it's so bizarre. But I don't know.
Go figure. Maybe one of these days maybe there's a song that he likes a lot or genre of music, and then maybe someone can sing with them,
Yes.
if he's in a good mood, and then that maybe could break it.
And I think,
if you will.
yeah, I think we just need to get him a few drinks,
Yeah,
and
it could
because
be too.
he kind of turns into a very happy-go-lucky guy after a few, which I
Sure.
think we all do.
Sure,
but
sure.
maybe I'll try to identify a song that he would really be into,
Yeah,
and then
or a genre
and then,
of music or something. Yeah.
feed him a few drinks. And, and get after it.
There you
But,
go. There you go.
Hey, thanks for the advice. I
Of
appreciate
course,
that,
absolutely, absolutely. There's been so many fun things I've witnessed with karaoke back when I did it a bunch. And I have another story if you want me to share.
I would love to hear it.
So my good friends from high school, middle school, even elementary school. This is a shout out to Clint Reed, Jerry Clint Reed, the only other person that I pretty much know that goes by their middle name, because I'm Gary Shane Light. So maybe you didn't know that. I go by my middle name. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But your dad's name is Gary,
yeah,
right?
yes, I'm Gary Jr., but my parents
Yes.
just called me Shane when I was younger because they just liked it better, I guess. But I am technically Gary, but everyone knows me as Shane and stuff. But so anyways, Jerry Clint Reed, Isaac Zubaga, those two guys, we went to this place called Long Shots in Tempe, and with other friends as well. And this was just completely improvised, not even set. They were singing, if I'm not mistaken, it was Beat It by Michael Jackson.
Ooh,
those two.
Great song.
And the part, if you've seen the music video, most of you have, the part where they're doing like the knife fight scene choreographed.
Yes.
They had chicken wings in their hand and they were like pretending to go at it. And I don't know if anyone recorded that. This is going way back. But that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
That's
like,
amazing.
It was just
I love
incredible.
that they were improvising, doing the entire music video,
Yeah.
but with chicken wings.
They were going
doing the
like
knife
this with the whole like instrumental part with that fight
fight.
scene.
Did they like lock arms? Where
I think they
like,
might have even locked
Oh
arms
my
with
gosh.
the chicken wing, and then it was
Yes.
just so funny. I mean, everyone's just cracking, not just like friends of theirs like me and others, but like the whole bar at Long Shots was just laughing. It was just so funny.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
I
And
love
whenever
that.
I think about that story, and I still laugh when I think about them doing that. So Isaac and Clint, you guys, I'm sure remember that, and it was just so improvised. It was just so funny. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Have you seen them or done any karaoke with them in the last 10 years?
You know, for a while, I still keep in contact with those guys and other dear friends from way back,
Yes.
elementary school and stuff. But I hope to meet up with my friend David and Clint. For them, Sunday evenings are good. And then Isaac, I still keep in contact. I'd like to see him as well. But I try to, keep in touch with my friends from way back, not just my current group of friends post-college like yourself, but also friends from like back in the day, elementary school. And
Yeah,
middle
when you
school.
were growing up.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I don't know if we talked about this, but you're an Arizona native.
Correct.
You were born here.
Right.
It's not like what is it, Bane? You're not Batman. You didn't merely adopt the sun.
That's right.
I
know that
merely
quote.
adopted it. You were born.
I was born into it, exactly. There was a period of time I was trying to do the Bane voice too, but yes.
Let's hear it. Could you give us
I don't know
a
if I
Bane
can,
voice?
but let's see here. There's quotes, of course. The fire rises.
That's good. That's
and just
good.
like that quote you were saying too as well. And you're right. I mean, for me, I know nothing else but the hot weather, intense hot in July and August. Seems to be June now, and even September's kind of warm. But my brother and I would be first generation Arizonians.
Yes.
My dad's from Iowa. My mom's from Peru. That's how I learned Spanish. But yeah, when I tell people that to native Arizonan, they're like amazed because hardly anyone seems to be above the age of 30 to be like a native Arizonan.
It is. It's
Yeah.
rare.
Very rare.
I can probably count on, well, now maybe my hands and my feet, probably about 20 people that
Sure.
I've ever met since I've lived here for 16 years.
Yeah.
That are native Arizonians.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so surprising to me that it's so rare. But
Oh yeah, it is.
I think people come here to snowbird or for opportunity.
Right.
I myself came here. I wasn't born here, but it's cool. It's cool to see people who are like, oh yeah, I remember this area just used to be farmland, or
Yeah.
there was never any highway here, which I think is
that something?
phenomenal to me, because
is.
Phoenix is such a new city, such a great city that's
It really
grown
is.
a ton.
Huge.
And I'm sure you could just
Oh,
go
yeah.
on and on about how much it's changed.
Oh, it's changed so much. I mean, I was born in 81, and I grew up in Phoenix. My parents moved to South Scottsdale just before I started kindergarten. I went to Hohokam Elementary School in South Scottsdale, then to Supai, then to Coronado High School. But when my parents moved to North Scottsdale before the start of my freshman year in high school at Coronado, they moved up to 68th Street in Bell, North Scottsdale.
wow.
And back then, it was like isolated. Not much was going on there. Now it's like, obviously lots of stuff going around.
Yeah.
So I was like kind of against the move because I wanted to stay in South Scottsdale, like my neighborhood. And I was kind of bummed, but the deal was that I could still go to Coronado High School. But my dad at the time was working in Phoenix. He would drop me off early at the school and the library. I'd get there early, but at least I could still go to the high school that I was supposed to be going, after middle school. So,
no kidding.
So that was kind of part of the deal because they got a great deal. I mean, I'm glad they did that, and they're happy they did that.
Yes.
But that was the deal. I could at least finish out high school with all the friends that I grew up with in elementary and middle school.
Oh, I love that then. Yeah, that's important too as like a teenager, especially if you've been in one place and you are the type of person who builds a big circle. I know you, and I know you have so many friends in your inner circle, in your inner outer circle, I mean, you're a well-connected person here in the Valley, which I think is awesome. You've put in a lot of time and effort into building your network, and I think that's amazing. But
appreciate it.
I get it. As a teenager, you don't want to go and leave your friends.
Oh, yeah.
Especially, I mean, even if you're staying in the same city or the same valley, right? You're going to a different high school. That's a big deal.
It is. And back then, like we mentioned earlier, like I was definitely more introverted. So like I wasn't this extroverted person you see here. So that would have been tough. I would have been able to manage, but it would have been tough.
Sure.
And I remember going to basketball camps. I played freshman and JV basketball. So I remember going to camps in the summertime, the coaches just having to do that with athletics and golf. I ended up playing golf at Coronado as well. But like for me, and my parents understood for sure like the reason why that I still wanted to do that because they knew I was more quiet and reserved.
Yeah. My
younger brother at the time, he's 7 years younger, he was going to go into second grade. So for him, it wasn't that big of a deal. He didn't have any lasting friendships. He was just starting school. So for him, it was easy to him to go to the local elementary school that was close to my parents, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Now, for you, what were your hobbies when you were younger, when you were in high school? What were you into? Obviously, basketball. I mean, it seems like sports have always kind of been your passion.
I would say so for sure. I mean, growing up, basketball definitely was my love. My first to play it, to watch it. I collected basketball cards. My friends and I, Dan and Jeff Sterla, another name drop there. The twins, all these years, we would go to each other's houses and play basketball, watch the NBA Finals on TV.
Okay.
90s for me, maybe I'm being biased, but I think was like the best time for the NBA. Jordan 100%. And Barkley and all those guys.
Undisputed.
Yeah, I think so too. I really do. And for me, that was certainly a big thing too. Penny Hardaway was my favorite player growing up. From the Magic, him and Shaq got to the finals in 95. So I think that, and then golf I got into as well, thanks to my dad. My dad introduced me to these sports growing up, golf, basketball. I even played some baseball for a couple of years, but I didn't like it as much.
Sure.
So I played Boys and Girls Club basketball. I played in middle school, a couple of years in high school.
Okay.
So I think that was the big thing in high school where it was sports. And I obviously, I got good grades. I got A's and B's, and, I probably could have made principals list more, but I just made like honor roll. But A's and B's, and then my dad got me into history as well, like reading, but also history and stuff. So that's why, as you see here with my bookcase of all the history stuff, I can thank my dad for sports and history. And then I want to thank my mom too, because she's going to say, you're just talking about your dad.
Gotta get show love to mom.
Absolutely. For her, it was all about focusing on school and organization and manners, obviously from my dad too, but like just really being focused on school and being responsible and everything else. So I definitely think I was very fortunate to be raised by such wonderful parents.
And I've met your parents, and they are really, really great people. And quickly, I know that your dad had recently had some surgery, right? How's he doing?
He's doing better. He's had so many surgeries, but the most recent one he had was a hernia surgery on Monday. And he was a little sore afterwards, but thanks to good old Percocet, that's been helping. And he's feeling a lot better now. And then before that, he's had a few knee operations on each knee.
Right?
Yeah, yes, the last 6 or 7 years, or maybe longer, he's been basically using a walker to walk, unfortunately. Wow. But he had a recent surgery about a year ago that if all goes well and everything, hopefully he can walk with a cane. That would be the goal. Because if he can walk with a cane, that's a huge step up from walking with a walker.
Absolutely. So, well, and there's something kind of cool about a cane, right?
It is.
That's very
stylish,
stylish, Godfather-esque.
Yeah, it's true.
And I picture your dad as the Godfather. A bit. He's got that style, that aura of Godfather.
Well,
so yes, I hope that all goes really well, and I would love to see him walking around with a cane.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. He also, and my folks remember you too, and I told them about doing this podcast with you, and they wanted to say hi to you and hope you're doing well too. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well,
Of course.
my parents. But yes, I think for let's talk a little bit more about the sports stuff, because I know that's a big piece of your podcast, and I definitely want to make sure that we cover that, because
Sure.
I love kind of cross promoting.
Yeah, no,
and
appreciate
I
it.
want to talk a little bit about, so for you, we talked about sports and the 90s, right? And for me, undisputed, some of the best players ever to have come across. And I want to ask you, because there's always this debate, and I think you had actually talked about it a little bit on one of your podcasts, but I want to get from you. Let's go with let's kind of create a dream team here.
Sure.
And so I want to get from you, and you can pick any generation you want. I mean, I would encourage you to go with 90s.
Right, for sure, absolutely.
But let's get Shane's dream team.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're coach, and you're building a dream team. So
this is a good one for sure. And I know that episode you're talking about too. Actually, I've had two where I've kind of talked about the 90s. One. And I said too to all the listeners that I will do some historical stuff too, like I did a Mount Rushmore of like the Arizona Cardinals, the top 4 players ever, and the top 5 whatever position. I did one recently, the top 5 shooting guards of the 90s, and I kind of went from 5 to 1 and 2 honorable mentions, and I backed it up with stats, but also just my opinion.
Of course.
So
and by the way, NBA dream team, by the way.
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely. And then my friends Dan and Jeff, they had suggested about like 90s NBA compared to today, the comparison. So 90s for sure. I'll certainly 80s and 2000s I'll talk about in future episodes, but 90s holds a special place in my heart.
Absolutely.
And I would say for my dream team for the NBA for starting, I would probably go point guard. I'd still go with Magic. I know that recent years everyone's been saying Steph Curry, who's amazing, great
Steph
shooter.
is awesome. Yes.
But I'd probably go with Magic, and then shooting guard I would go with MJ, of course, Michael Jordan. Yeah.
The GOAT.
The GOAT.
The GOAT,
sure.
undisputed GOAT. Yes. LeBron fans, get out of here.
I know. The younger generation probably thinks LeBron, and I get that. Everyone's got their favorite depending on when they're growing up. And then probably the age group between like people in their 30s probably think maybe Kobe could be the best. And I get that. Like everyone's got their
big love for Kobe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kobe was tremendous too. Yeah,
MJ.
Yeah, for me, it's MJ, absolutely. And then this is where it gets a little dicey for me because it's really tough. Like for center, I might have to go with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I know some people would think Shaq because he was so dominant, or Hakeem Olajuwon I thought was super great too. So that one's tough. I'd probably go with Kareem, and then shooting small forward and power forward. Power forward, I'd probably go with Tim Duncan. Barkley's up there for me too, but even Charles Barkley said recently that he thinks Tim Duncan was the best power forward ever. Even Barkley himself said that.
Really?
And Barkley's very confident, very funny,
yes,
very brash, and all
but
that. But
he handed he's literally passing the award.
He said that. Yeah.
He's
best power forward. So I mean that's that's pretty good company in terms of that. And then I would probably go small forward. Again, this is tough. It'd either be like LeBron or Larry Bird. I was probably not old enough to see Larry Bird in his prime, but obviously I've seen clips and videos how amazing he was.
Yes.
So for me, it'd be a toss-up between them because LeBron, I know you could play different positions, but I think small forward is a more natural one. So in a nutshell, that's kind of
your dream team. You're gonna crush it 100%. I think that's those. It's so hard to pick.
It is,
honestly.
absolutely.
It really is because everybody has their strengths and you could put together this team against another team that's amazing.
Sure.
And they're going to go head to head, especially there is the argument of, things were different back then. Yeah. Talents were different.
Absolutely.
If MJ were to go up against LeBron today, would he be able to stand up? And it's hard. It's hard to quantify that. And,
it is. And it always makes for interesting debate, though, like you said, because someone from the 60s or 70s compared to the 90s, or like you said, 90s to today.
Yes.
The big thing that my friends talk about is that 90s basketball, and 80s for that matter, were more physical. And like nowadays, it's not as physical and this and that, and how there really is no post-up players. Everyone, you have big guys that can shoot threes, and it's just a different kind of game today. So I can see where that comes from, but it's always interesting to talk about, like you said, when you compare greats or who your top 5 at this position is. For me, there were some people that, and everyone was nice, but when I did the top 5 shooting guards of the 90s, there were some people that thought maybe someone else should have been in there, and that's fine. It was friendly banter. It wasn't anything like, oh my goodness, how dare you leave someone off the list. But it was fun. And I remember someone mentioning like John Starks, maybe honorable mention. I didn't think I put John Starks in honorable mention, but John Starks was a good, nice shooting guard for the Knicks back in the day. He was a scrappy guy.
Old school Knicks.
Old school Knicks. Yeah, back in the 90s, them and the Bulls had their rivalry for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's just fun to talk about. And when people have their opinions on it, and that's what I want to do more of, is try to have more guests on my episodes as well. That's the goal.
I love that. I think what I've heard so far from you with having your dad, having Romy on there. Shout out to Romy.
Shout out to him, big. Yeah, Romy, my ex-roommate, ex-coworker. We're still really good buddies. We did the Cardinals one recently, the forecast, and he crushed it. It was really great doing one with him too.
Yeah, I think. Well, and I envision. I think we need to do another episode just because.
Yeah.
I love hanging out with you and talking with you.
Appreciate
and maybe we should get Romy up in here too.
Yeah,
well.
Romy would love it. He was all about it, and he wants to do one with me soon after the Cardinals play like their first or second preseason game.
I think you definitely
so kind
should
of a follow-up where anything has changed in terms of our prediction for the Cardinals, and hopefully no players get hurt, and how everyone's progressing in training camp, stuff like that.
Right.
So, yeah,
yes.
That'd be fun.
Again, tune in to Shane 4K's podcast to get all of the latest on what's happening in, for sure, Arizona sports, but even across the leagues, right?
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I think it's for me. I'm committed listener now, just because it's interesting. It's fun to listen to. You do have a lot of statistics in there, which is great. It's not just it's not just opinion, you know.
Right.
But it's also fun. Opinion is great because I also review you as somebody who is very, you ride the center as far as trying to consider both sides when it comes to the pros and the cons of sports and their talents and stuff.
Absolutely. It's that fine balance, like you said, of like opinion, back it with facts, but you want to have a little bit of both and some reasoning. So I try to do a mix of that when I do an episode where I'm stating some stuff that I know in my opinion, but I also back it up with some facts and some stats and stuff. So yeah.
Now I do want to get into, because you talked about history, and I want to ask you one quick question. You collected cards, as a kid.
I did.
I don't know. There's something so magical about that. Having that history, right? I don't know if it's lost now. I mean, kids are collecting whatever Pokemon cards and Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff like that, but baseball card collecting, it seems like it's really died off. At least current. I know that there is still some, but it's like they're going after these one-of-ones and stuff, right? These really extremely valuable cards. But
I've noticed that.
Just breaking open a pack and like collecting cards, throwing them in a book. But what did you collect? Like, give me some stories. Give me some memories about collecting cards.
Absolutely. First off, for me, I know baseball cards. I collected some of, but for me, because basketball was my favorite sport, that I was collecting basketball cards. That was the big thing.
Okay.
And again, I'll name drop Dan and Jeff Sterla, because I remember the big thing was growing up, Hoops was the very popular brand back then. It was basically the equivalent of like Topps for baseball. Mm-hmm. So whenever like you had a store that had the Hoops packaging, like the packs like you mentioned, it was a big deal. And I remember every year about a certain time when they came out, and I remember, I'll name drop someone else. He's actually a teacher in Gilbert, I believe, Rob Soper, not Robbie anymore. And we would always collect cards, and that was a big deal. Oh, Hoops just came out, and when you got a pack and everything else. So that was big. I have some sets, I think, still somewhere. And then Skybox, when they came out, that was a cool look.
Like, yes, because they had the
background.
the cool backgrounds, and Skybox was
that was a
next
big
level
thing for sure. And then soon like Upper Deck came out, and then you have like Fleer had gone back, but Fleer Ultra and like Top Stadium, and then you had all these other brands that kind of started, I want to say, in the mid to late 90s. And I collected cards probably all the way through middle school, I want to say, freshman year of high school. But the peak of it was probably like 4th grade to 8th grade or whatever. And it was fun. Like you said, I remember one Christmas, my dad got me a box of a Skybox. I believe it was Skybox.
Like a whole box?
A whole box, like the 36 packs or whatever came in. And it was for Christmas. And I remember it was like the last present I was going to open. I was probably, I don't know, 12 or something like that, or 13. And there was a place in South Scottsdale. So all you South Scottsdale, people growing up, Holcomb and Pima, those schools, it was called the Batter's Box. This was like a baseball card shop or football, any kind of card shop. And people would go there, and it was kind of like, it was just neat because you would go there and maybe buy an individual card or some packs, and it was good memories for sure. That's very nostalgic.
Now, did you trade cards often? Because that's something that I know that some people did. I never did. I don't think I really ever traded cards because I was just like, no, these are my cards.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. I never really traded much. Maybe there were a couple of occasions where I did, But for the most part, like you said, I kind of just wanted to keep them and trying to get a set of something or maybe collect certain cards of a player. Like
Sure.
I remember getting like most of Penny Hardaway's rookies or Shaquille O'Neal's rookie cards. Or
Okay.
I had at one point maybe like over 50 Michael Jordan cards or something.
Dang.
Exactly. So it was kind of like, I just want to keep them. If I have a second one of that, a double,
Yes.
then yeah, okay, I could use that for trade bait or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was definitely very nostalgic for sure. And I think what it was too, like you mentioned, is that my younger brother, 7 years younger, his name is Brett, so I'm name dropping Brett as well.
What's up, Brett?
What's up, Brett? I remember when he was younger, third, fourth grade, when I was starting to collect basketball cards, Pokemon was getting really big in the late
Yes.
90s, early 2000s.
Yes.
So I think his group, mid-30s, he's 36, I believe. I think that group, maybe they collected cards, baseball and basketball. I think that's when like the whole Pokemon and Digimon or whatever. I think that was a change. So I think we were kind of one of the last groups, in the early 40s. Now we're in early 40s, or 43 still early 40s, I guess.
Yeah.
But that collected cards like more back then. I think then that next wave maybe not as much because of Pokemon.
Yes,
and all that.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Now, what was if you were to pick, if your parents got rid of all your cards, you got to keep one,
Right.
and maybe you still have it today, but what's the card? What's that card that you have?
Good question.
Or don't have anymore, what you wish you had?
Right, for sure. That's a really good question. I would say, and he was also, injuries. He could have been a great player, just like Penny Hardaway. But there was a rookie card, Grant Hill. Remember
yes.
Grant Hill?
Mm-hmm.
And he played for the Suns later in his career, in his twilight. He was still a nice player. But when he was with the Pistons, there was a rookie card I got of him in a pack, which is like, oh my God, you got a rookie card in the pack. And at the time, I don't know how much it is now, but at the time it was like $40, worth $40. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's huge. When you're 11 or 12 years old and you got a card that's worth $40.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely, absolutely. So I think what I might do is, I heard there's an app too where you can actually have an app to see like how much your cards are like priced. You probably have heard of it, yeah. And then I might even just get like a price guide Beckett at Barnes and Noble, because they have those. And just to kind of look over and see like how much of my cards are worth or whatever,
You
be interesting.
Yeah, you should. You should sit down and go through those, because I think you probably might be sitting on some pretty valuable cards.
I'm thinking,
given that they're not around much anymore. I mean,
Right.
you go to now, they have like card shows, right?
Right.
It's rare to just go into a sports shop or something and see just old school cards.
Oh,
It's
totally.
only limited, right? Rookie cards
Exactly.
and just
That's
those
so
those
true.
really rare cards that are going for hundreds of
Oh, yeah.
hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars.
Absolutely. It's incredible.
It's crazy to me.
It
where I
is.
just I threw away tons of cards and lost cards, and
bummer.
it's sad.
Yeah.
I don't have any of them anymore. I wish
So
I
you don't
could.
have any? Oh.
I don't have any
Oh,
of them
wow.
anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm very sad, and that was a big part of my life. But I don't know what I would do with them now.
Yeah.
But,
No, I hear you. I think it's one of those where you just kind of keep it, and it's kind of more nostalgic and stuff like
Yes.
that too. Once in a while to look at them. I have some, I think, somewhere in my closet, like a book of in a box of stuff. But I think a lot of them are at my folks' house, where they've kept them. I know for sure. But
Awesome.
it would be cool to look back and see, because the satisfaction of getting like a high-priced card in a pack, the thrill of that was just something that was just so cool. And then when you're trying to get a set going, and you try to fill up that book and everything. And I remember when my dad got me that box of Skybox, that was a big deal. Like, oh my goodness, I'll get the whole set or whatever. It was a big deal.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Good memories.
Yeah, shout out to your dad. I mean, I don't know, a simpler time maybe
For sure.
and it was a better time. I don't know.
Yeah.
As we get older now, it's hard to find joy in those little things,
Right.
but the fact that you still have them,
Yeah.
and I would certainly encourage you to go and sit down and bring your camera, bring your do a little podcast
I
around it
might
or
have
something.
to. I might have to have
That'd
like a
be-
special episode.
that'd
like you
be
said.
fun to
I
go-
think it would, because
go
I think a
pick
lot
through.
of 90s kids would enjoy it, because the sentimental. Now that we're older, now I remember when I was younger, and people would say back in the day, and like people talking about the 80s or the 70s. But now I'm at that age. We're at that age now where you look back and life was simpler. We were younger, and I certainly like the technology advances we have today. Don't get me wrong, but at the time it was just simpler back then. Like opening a pack of cards was fun.
Yes.
Just shooting, playing basketball. It didn't have to be on a team, but just shooting hoops with your friends and going to a friend's house to play basketball.
Yes.
Just stuff like that.
No internet, no cell phones. I mean, maybe we had like AOL or something like
Right, the dial-up that you heard that annoying noise. Exactly.
Yeah.
That took forever to load. And then, like you said, and then Yeah, exactly. And the cell phones that were just starting out were like big ones, like the Zach Morris cell phone from Saved by the Bell or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we didn't have the smartphones or anything like that. So it was definitely a different time. So yeah, it's nice to get a little nostalgic about that, I think.
I love that. No, it is cool to talk about it and just relive it, because it takes us back to, again, like, we had a great childhood growing up, and I mean, at least from a just go outside and play till the streetlights come on kind of thing, where kids don't get to do that anymore, and
Not as
and
much,
I think
I've
that's disappointing for them, but of course, I don't know, the video game systems now, I wished I had those when I was a kid.
That's a big difference for sure. Yeah, compared to the Super Nintendos and Nintendos and Segas.
But then again, like, those were iconic, and we grew up with video games. Like, we were the first ones to be able to play real video games. No hate, but Atari technically wasn't like really video games. I mean, it was the birthplace of it, but
sure.
But yeah, now
Nintendo changed the game like in 85
now with
or
Nintendo and stuff, it was just like, it was a game changer, right?
Oh yeah,
kids opening up their NES at Christmas.
Oh yeah,
I remember a story. My cousin got an NES for Christmas, and it had just come out. He opened it up. Everybody, like, all the kids, lost their minds.
Of course, it was the big. And he was the cool kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was great because he lived like 3 doors down, and so we were always over at their house playing Duck Hunt and and Mario.
Yes,
and
the first and the second one.
Yeah, everything. It was amazing. Now, are you a video gamer? Were you a video gamer?
I was at some point. I think during that time I was big. I probably stopped playing video games, I want to say maybe my late teens, early 20s, but I definitely remember playing Madden football. That was huge.
Oh, yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. I think the first Madden game I got, I had Super Nintendo, and I want to say it was like Madden 94 or something like that, 93 or 94. And I remember getting all the Madden games up to like maybe 2002 or 2003 or 2004.
Sure.
So that was a big deal too. Like whenever it came out in July or August. And I remember playing seasons or I'd have friends over and we would play, and it was fun. And for me, it was like realistic, which I always like that too. But at the same time, I did like NBA Jam. Remember NBA Jam?
NBA Jam.
That was fun too.
The jam,
and that was fun. And obviously 2-on-2, and you had the dunks, and you had the He's on Fire when you made 3 in a row. I remember that as well too. Yeah. That was a big deal too. I think I got that on my birthday, like my 12th or 13th birthday.
Sure.
And I remember, like, they didn't have Jordan in the game for some reason because there was some trademark thing. But I remember it was like Horace Grant and Pippen, but I was always like the son, so KJ and Barkley. But they had like the top 2 players pretty much from like every team, and that was fun too for sure.
NBA Jam was amazing.
It was huge.
And
huge.
honestly, the fact that you kind of quit maybe after that, I don't think you're missing out on much. I mean, yes, Madden is still around and still prevalent, but it's certainly gotten a lot more technical, and it's it's fun. Don't get me wrong, I still play it. I have some friends that play it, but
nice.
But yeah, it's curious to me though that you don't play video games anymore, and I want to ask you why.
Well, I think what it is, and obviously, like you said, everyone's got what they want to do, and that's great. I have some friends that still play for sure, and I think for me it's more where I guess there's just other stuff I want to do. I certainly wouldn't be opposed to it, like your friend who doesn't like to do karaoke. I'm not anti-video game, like your friend's anti-karaoke.
Good.
I think for me it's just more like working out or just spending time with family and friends or stuff like that, or I really like watching documentaries or movies. There's just other stuff for me that I like to do, but I have nothing against video games now, not at all. I think it's great, and it doesn't matter how old you are. If you enjoy it, that's all that counts.
Sure.
For anyone who is clowning, I'm like, there's no need to hate. Like anyone can do video games at whatever age. I absolutely. So,
no, I appreciate that.
Of course.
But you just find your time being spent on doing other things that
Pretty
you
much.
Enjoy more.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. Because I even had, as most of you know, I was a Spanish teacher at Cheyenne Traditional School. The last 2 years, I'm going back to subbing this year. I just want to sub at Cheyenne this year, but a lot of my students in the past would ask me that too, or even last year or the year before. Hey, Mr. Light or Senor Luz, you play any video games? And I say I don't, but I'm not against it. But I did say that I used to play like Madden, and then that's like, oh, okay, they've heard of Madden, of course, because Madden's still going on, strong as ever. And then I remember also playing like Street Fighter. Back in the day, those fighting Mortal Kombat, those games were kind of fun too.
The fighting games,
The fighting games. So I would also play some of that back in the day too. But I think that's one of the things. There's just other stuff that I like to do. But I know our friend Kamjan. He still likes to play Street
Oh,
Fighter.
Kami,
Calling out,
yes.
name dropping Kamjan.
Shout out to Kami.
He is like the best at Street Fighter too. Like no one can beat him. It's amazing.
It is, yeah. It's great. So for those of you who don't know, Kamjan is an awesome guy.
He really is.
Just a big, like, he's a bodybuilder. I don't think he actually technically bodybuilds, but
Strong guy,
he's
though.
Strong guy.
Strong like ox, as Steve Bergamo would say. Strong like ox.
Strong like ox. He's got this TV and what is it, a Super Nintendo out on his patio.
He does.
And he'll throw pool parties, and we'll sit out there and do like pool volleyball.
Oh yeah.
And then
Legendary ones.
Yes, legendary games. And then he's also got the Super Nintendo where we're playing Street Fighter.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It's great. It's a throwback.
It really is.
I love to try to hit up like old arcades. Well, not old arcades, but arcades that have the old machines, the old cabinets that you can go and play Street Fighter, Turtles, whatever.
Yeah. Ninja Turtles. Yes, that game too. I remember that game. Yes,
that's a great game. But
Heck
I don't do it enough, and it's fun. It's nostalgic, but
It is.
it's a good time.
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of stuff from the 90s, and obviously everyone would say that about their decade if you're an 80s kid or a 70s, but in the 90s, the video games, basketball in particular, just that stuff, card collecting, that was like a big thing.
Yes.
When you go back on it and stuff. So I think that's kind of the deal with that. And in terms of me like collecting cards, I think it was like the thing to do, and I had friends that did it.
Right.
So that'll kind of make you want to do it, and you have friends that do it as well.
Yeah. You're just gonna do whatever other people are interested in because you all can connect.
Exactly.
Doing that.
That
right?
was the big thing.
So it depends on whatever you want to connect about.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I think we're about to wrap up here, but I want to ask you about because I'm a big movie buff, and I know you're a big movie buff. We've got the we've got the Rat Pack here behind me.
Huge.
And I know that you're big into watching series and stuff. I think that you
TV shows.
It's
Absolutely.
so cool. Shane actually like hangs out with his parents and they pick series to sit down and watch, which I think is awesome. And how do you pick them?
Yeah, good question. Very good question. So basically, my dad and I have more similar tastes. My mom kind of likes more action or comedy. So what we try to do, and we've done this for several years now, is that we basically try to find a common denominator where there's a drama with some action. Okay. And I'll throw out a suggestion, and then we try to meet up once a week. They only live about 8 to 10 minutes west of me. Perfect. Which is great because, they've just been so wonderful parents. I always want to try to visit them when I can. I love that. So we've gone through, and you probably heard of some of these shows, but we've gone through Billions.
Oh, yes.
With Paul Giamatti. Succession.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great one, too.
Okay.
Then Homeland.
Oh,
that was good. So like a lot of, you kind of see it's like that drama kind of with some action.
But it's got action too, yeah.
Totally. Boardwalk Empire was another one. Boardwalk's pretty good. 1920s, Steve Buscemi doesn't play a goofy guy. He actually plays like not a goofy guy.
Like
in
a
this.
serious character?
Serious character. He's kind of like the cool, smooth guy. 1920s Prohibition, Atlantic City.
Nice.
So a historical period piece. Right now, we just finished. We're caught up with Yellowstone. That finishes up in November.
Yeah.
They come back, and then we saw
Great
1883.
show.
Oh, huge, really good. And then we're like in the middle of 1923, another prequel to Yellowstone.
Oh, there's two.
There's two prequels. 1883 was
I
10
thought,
up. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Two prequels. Yeah.
I knew of 1883, but I didn't know that there was a 1923.
Yeah.
Is that new?
It's newer. So like
last year or something?
Yeah, basically came out in 2023. There were 8 episodes, and for the first season, they're coming out with the second season of that. Harrison Ford is in it, and Helen Mirren. So you got some big names in that. Yeah.
So I gotta check this out because I watched Yellowstone and I think I got almost all the way through 1883. Okay. I love them both. Being from Montana, I'm a big fan. But,
absolutely.
But yes, I think 1923. I wasn't even aware because I'm just waiting for the next season of Yellowstone.
November. We still have a few months to go for it. But in the meantime, I suggest I think you would like 1923, and then the second season. I think they just are starting to film or finishing up. So when Yellowstone ends in November, 1923 will still be like coming out the second season of it. Okay. So which is good because that way you can kind of follow, the timeline and everything too of the family, the Dutton family.
Sure. Yeah, the Dutton family, crazy. It's a great series.
It really
if you
is.
haven't watched it, watch them all because they're fantastic. Now,
absolutely.
Again, another reason that makes you a legend, Shane, is because you take the time to spend with your friends with your family, I think it's amazing because you know, a lot of people just go on and do their busy lives and forget A, where they came from,
Right.
you know, B, who got them there, kind of thing. And so the fact that you take the time to spend with your family, because as we all know, you know, nobody's going to be around forever, right? So,
exactly. That's so true.
Trying to create and value that time with them is amazing. So I just, props to you, man,
I appreciate
for doing that.
No, thank you for saying that. I've definitely been blessed and fortunate to have that. And one more thing, too, I want to say that I got from my mom, because I know, Mom, you're listening, is I'm fluent in Spanish thanks to her being from Peru. So I also wanted, when I mentioned about where I got my trades from my dad, my mom, Spanish was huge. Basically, she taught it to me when I was younger. So I've been fluent for so long, and it's helped me with obviously teaching and then tutoring. I even have a little Peruvian flag behind you right there too, as well.
Yes.
From Peru.
Oh yeah.
So
okay.
exactly. So I want to throw that in there as well too, Mom. I certainly thank you for my Spanish speaking ability. So
good. And and to that point, you also do Spanish tutoring. Correct.
Absolutely.
Let's quickly talk about that. I'll give you a chance to kind of plug that.
Another plug. Thank you, sir. So basically, you know, the last couple of years, I actually did a good amount of Spanish tutoring. Probably 7 or 8 years ago, when I was working part-time for the city and I was subbing some, and then I would tutor a good amount.
Okay.
The last 2 years, I was a full-time teacher, and to all my teacher friends and fellow ex-teachers at Cheyenne, a shout out to you guys. But when it's very demanding. 50-plus hour weeks where I really only tutored maybe 2 or 3 hours a week, and that was enough. I wasn't even going to try to because I was just so busy.
Yes.
But now that I'm back to subbing, I can certainly tutor a lot more flexible. I can leave when the bell rings, you know, and it was a good day, but I don't have to stay till 3:30 or 4 and plan stuff. So I'm going to really get my tutoring going. High school, I mostly do. Middle school, I've done college and even adults. There's a lady that I tutored this Sunday. Sari is her name.
I think I saw a post of you and Sari. Very cool.
She wants to know a third language. She's from Japan, so she knows Japanese and English, and she wants to practice more conversational restaurant type terminology, and we're going to meet up again this Sunday. She wants to continue. We've been off and on the last several years. She's great. She's a great learner. She definitely wants to get into it. So adults, college, high school, and middle school as well for Spanish. And I tutor some other subjects, but the main is, especially high school and up, is Spanish. So.
I love that. Now, because I've never... Like, I took a little bit of high school Spanish, and I've never gotten tutoring or anything done like that. But how does it work? Like, is it literally like just by the hour? Do you put together a program like, hey, in 6 weeks I'll help you become, you know, semi-fluent in Spanish or whatever? No. Like, how does it work?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because maybe I'll be a client.
There you go. That sounds good. I have tutored some friends before in the past as well. Absolutely. I know my friend Valerie had suggested recently about, and you've met Valerie, about tutoring her some. So. Basically, when it comes to students in junior high and high school, I'm helping them with like their homework and prepping for quizzes and tests. Concepts that they're learning, whether it's mostly grammar is the more tougher part, vocab not as much. A college, the same thing. I tutored a college student a few sessions last semester. Word got around just the whole social networking. He was a student at University of Michigan. So we did FaceTime, and he had about 4 or 5 sessions that we did. And it was an elective, and I helped him out with it. So for him, it's more about that. But then if it's an adult, like Sari or others, I'll kind of have a plan of what they want to focus on, and then I'll kind of set up a lesson plan.
Sure.
And I've even made like worksheets in the past, or have them take notes and that kind of deal. And I kind of I know for adults, it's mostly conversational. They don't need to know the future tense or preterite tense.
Yeah, okay.
The students do, because that's for what their subject is.
For exams and stuff like that.
Exactly. Spanish 1, 2, 3. I've even tutored Spanish 4. But for adults, it's more conversational, what you want to focus in on. I'll start with the basics and certain basic verbs and that kind of stuff. But it's about conversational stuff and greetings and sayings, and we can build from there. There I kind of set up a little program, and you take notes. I've made worksheets and stuff like that.
Okay. And then how would somebody get in touch with you to set that up? Do you have a email? Do you want them to reach out to you on Instagram? Or like, what's your...
Absolutely. My phone number, I've made business cards. I don't have one behind me. I should have had one there.
That's okay. I'll get the image, or I'll take a photo of it, and we'll just put it right up on the video.
Thank you. So my email, you can certainly email me or text me or call me.
Okay.
Whatever you prefer. And then even through Instagram or Messenger as well, you can message me and stuff for sure. And then you can kind of tell me what you want to focus in on, basically. And typically my sessions are an hour. And then, usually like at a Starbucks or something like that's fine. I've gone to students' houses as well, if that's more convenient.
Okay.
But, it's one of those things that I do enjoy the teaching aspect of it. I think it is nice. It comes easy to me, I think. And I did enjoy teaching at Cheyenne for the last 2 years. And it was fun when a student gets a concept that you're trying to teach to them, and you try to make it interesting and kind of fun as well. So
that is the payoff, right? Is getting that light bulb to come on,
Totally.
and you can see it, and then they get excited about it, and you've done your job, and you get to
Exactly.
go home and be like, yes.
Oh yeah,
I did
it's a very satisfying feeling for sure. And when you mentioned the light bulb, I still have the name tag that one of my students made for me, not last year, but the year before, and it was Senor Luz.
Yep.
And she was a very creative student where she actually had like a light bulb in the name tag that I used for my desk.
Oh, very cool.
I still have it as a good memento and stuff as well from it, but Luz meaning light.
Yep.
The light bulb was, they're very creative, and I still have that, yeah.
That's very cool. Well, your first Spanish lesson today, everybody, Luz.
Yes,
is
that's right.
Spanish for light.
That's right, Senor Luz, L-U-Z. L-U-Z, that's how you spell it, exactly.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's going to about wrap it up for us here, Shane. I mean, we
Sounds
definitely,
good.
I think we got to do another one.
Yeah, I'd love to. That'd be
because,
awesome.
man, so many things to talk about.
There is,
It's
there
such a
is.
great conversation, though, with you, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Of course.
Enjoying, the Shane Light 4K, Shane 4K pad here.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, we're going to come back here. So come back again, watch us and see what we got coming up for you next. But, again, Shane's a legend. Just being an entrepreneur out there, starting his own podcast. So again, go check out Shane 4K on Spotify Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. And then also, if you're interested in potentially getting some Spanish tutoring or Spanish learning, reach out to him. We'll have his contact here on the video. But
Appreciate it.
with that, we conclude the podcast. So thanks so much, Shane, for hanging out with us, and we'll see you again soon. So
Sounds good.
Take
Thank you
care,
so
everybody.
much. Appreciate it. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.